Hello there. Yesterday I played round 2 in the Lichess4545 league. So these are long games, 45 minutes plus 45 seconds increment. This game was very tough, very difficult and very long game. It took 2.5 hours. So let's analyze it. I'll try not to make this video 2.5 hours long. In fact, I'll try to do this a little bit quicker. I'll try to stick to the main points so we can get this in the reasonable amount of time. Okay, so I was right here. You can see that by rating my opponent is of similar strength as I am. So in a classical rating I'm a little bit lower rated than in rapid. In rapid I'm close to 2000, and you can see in classical I'm less than 1900. But okay, so I opened with e4. My opponent played e6, so he went for the French defense. And you know, when there is a French defense, it will be very hard positional struggle. So I played d4, immediately grabbing the center, d5, and I played advanced French. I talked about several times about how should you respond to the French, and the advance is one of the ways you can play, especially if you want to learn positional chess and to meet all kind of positions. He played c5, I played c3, so this is all, let's say, main line. Nothing much to comment here. Knight to c6, knight to f3, so we are just playing normal developing moves. Bishop to d7, this is a little bit unusual move, but it covers this possibility of check of tactics if he takes d4 pawn. So this is like a safety move, and also this move suggests that maybe he will try. He will try to quickly exchange his bad bishop. So in the French defense, this bad bishop is the main problem in the opening. So he wants to do something about this early. Bishop to e2. Okay, here bishop d3 is also possible because this pawn is still not threatened. So if he plays here, I don't know, but this is a bishop d3 is usually possible and recommended when this bishop is not on d7, exactly because there is this tactic. So for example, if this bishop is not here, you can imagine then if we exchange on a d4, then I can give check and have this covered attack. So this d3 is usually played when this bishop is not here, but when this bishop is here, then bishop e2 is most playable move. f6 immediately challenging my center. Okay, castles, and now he takes the pawn, and this is the first mistake I made. I grabbed with the pawn, and I should have taken with the knight. So it will be much easier for me, because when I take with the pawn, then the problem is that this pawn will get attacked, and I will spend a lot of time and energy and effort and whatnot to defend this pawn. And in this move order, so if he takes, I take. Now this pawn is much more easier to defend because there is no knight attacking it. So here I made a mistake, and you will see that this mistake will haunt me throughout the rest of the game. So I will spend enormous amount of effort to try to keep this pawn. Knight h6. Okay, now I was thinking what to do. So the move which suggests itself is to take the knight, but I know that usually black is okay with this, because yes, he does has double pawns, but he has some open lines for the attack. But usually, so this move is not recommended. But usually this move is not recommended when this pawn is here. And I was thinking, since he doesn't have f-pawn, he'll have two very isolated double pawns, so I thought that I might have some advantage here. So I took, he took back, rook e1. Now you can see this is this move is to protect this pawn, because this comes next. So I wanted to make sure that after he plays bishop g7, I have this pawn defended. and he played bishop g7. And now I missed tactics. I played bishop d3, so to defend this pawn, and this was not necessary, because I could have played any move. For example, the computer suggests c4, but let's say I played any move, knight a3. He cannot take, because takes, and then I have this discovered check with the discovered attack on the bishop. So this discovered attack protects my my pawn here, and I don't need to waste time by playing bishop to d3. So this was a mistake, because I missed these tactics. Queen c7. Now he's piling up on my pawn, and again I have. Now I played the queen to e2, defending the pawn. So 1 2 3, 1 2 3. Okay, but again there was a tactic. So let's say I played some other developing move, like knight a3. He cannot take this pawn, because if he takes, check. This is the point. Again, double attack. He has to move, and then I just cash in the piece. So because of this possibility, after everything is exchanged, I can give check and attack e5. This pawn is sufficiently protected. And this is the problem when you play this early f6 in the French, that this diagonal is open, and it's prone to this kind of tactical shots. But I missed all these tactics, so I played queen to e2, just protecting. So now all my pieces are tied to protecting this pawn. He long castles. Okay, so what else could he do? I mean, he could maybe try to keep his king in the center, or to long castle. No other options there, because this king side is completely open. So he long castles, and now my plan should be just to try to expand to the to his queen side and try to exploit this weak position of the king. You can see that this pawn is overreached, and so this should be my strategy. This was my thinking, but I wasn't able to proceed with this. So I developed my knight, knight b to d2. The idea was I was eyeing for this square, and then from e4 I could go to d6, or maybe even to f6, or I'm also attacking this pawn. So this was my idea. I wanted to prepare knight e4. He played bishop to e8, so obviously wanting to activate his bishop on the other side of the board. I played rook ac1. So the idea was, okay, there were some better moves. In fact, the computer suggests that I should immediately go with b5, and even if need be, just sacrifice the pawn in order to open the files. So, for example, if he takes, I take, he takes, I can bring my rook. He has to go back with the knight, for example, and this is a well, I did sacrifice a pawn, but now I have open files. His the queen and the king are aligned, and so on. I have some chances. So this is what I should have done here. So in this position, let's go here. Okay. So here I just I didn't have the courage to sacrifice the pawn. So I just needed to sacrifice the pawn and put my heavy pieces, bring my heavy pieces to the attack, and move all my pieces, remaneuver them to the attack, and give up a pawn. I mean, pawn really doesn't matter if you have this kind of an attack and open lines and open diagonals. Okay, but I played rook ac1. The idea was that I'm now aligning with his queen and his king, so I thought maybe I could exploit this in the future. He played bishop g6, now wanting to exchange his bad bishop. I accepted the exchange because I thought I had a chance with c4. So I accepted the exchange. Now he has... maybe I shouldn't have accepted the exchange here. because I did him a favor. I helped him to fix his pawn structure, but I thought that once this bishop is gone, I have some chances. So h takes g4 and c4 now. The idea was if he plays, I mean, if he takes, then great. I can take with the rook, and I have open game. The idea was if he plays d4, I thought that I could jump here and do some damage here, also attacking this. But I didn't see that if I go here that he can just take, and now this pawn is protected. And also this pawn is gone, and then I cannot play this knight to d6 because this pawn doesn't protect this anymore. So I miscalculated this stuff, and now he has very strong passed pawn, which is protected and supported by his rook. So he even has the d3 or similar threats here. So this was the problem, and this was I think one of the biggest mistakes in this game. Okay, so I realized that I cannot immediately play knight to e4, so I played a3, trying to prepare b4, and maybe kick this knight away or try to open some lines. He played g5, and now again I panicked, maybe without a good reason. I was afraid that he will go g4. So I mean, g4 is a threat, but I should have met it with h3. I was afraid that he will be able maybe to open this h file. So h3, g4, I take, and then I was afraid that he can somehow forcefully open this file, maybe by playing this, and then bring his queen, and then he's threatening to checkmate or all kind of nasty stuff here. So in this kind of panic I played g4, thinking I stopped everything here, because now he cannot play h5, because I will go with here, I will take with the knight, and then I will threaten this e6 which forks. So I was thinking something like this, but of course this is very dangerous, because if he opens this file, for example, if he plays h5, I take, he takes, it could be very dangerous. But okay, this is what I played. Bishop to f8. Now he's anticipating my b4, and he's supporting b4 now with 3 pieces, so I cannot play b4. I mean, I can, but it will be a pawn sacrifice. And now I made another small mistake, queen to d3. So I wanted to penetrate with the queen on g6, threaten this weak pawn, and also to put my rook in charge of this pawn, because now when he played bishop to f8, when he played bishop to f8, now he's not pressuring this pawn 3 times, but only 2 times, and then I can play queen d3. I was hoping again for something like knight to e4, and then I have some kind of discovered attacks on the queen maybe, or something like this. But well, knowing how the game went, I'm not happy with this move. Queen to g7. Now he's covering this penetration square, and this is what you should always do. This is when the queen is aiming at your camp, you should see the penetration squares of the queen, and this is g6, and he's covering g6, and also he's now protecting g5. So now he can play h5 and open the files and attack my king. I can no longer take knight takes g5. So I was thinking about this position for a long time, and I realized that this pawn and this effort to defend this pawn is really paralyzing my position. It's paralyzing all my pieces, and I mean, his king is kind of exposed, and I have no activity to exploit this. So I decided at this moment, after long thought, to give up this pawn and to try to get some pieces activity as a compensation. So I'm not sure if this decision was correct, probably not, but I think in fact even engine suggests this. So I didn't have much alternative. I mean, I will just play passively and sooner or later I would crack. So I think even engine agrees. I think it's the second choice of the engine to give out the pawn. So I played knight to e4 here, and now I'm allowing him to take the pawn, but I will try to exploit this for some activity. So he played knight to e5. Computer thinks this is a mistake because h5 was a better move here, because it opens. I will probably take with my knight. Let's see, so h5 I will probably take, but now you can see I have some problems. Yeah, this would lose the piece. So probably after h5 I would have to go with this, and now again I have a problem. Let's see what is the line. Yeah, okay, it's not so clear, but I do have he does have attack on the king. Okay, I played knight to e4. He took the pawn, and I took the knight. He took the pawn. Now I have this discovered attack, but I cannot do anything because this queen is nicely centralized. It covers all squares, so I cannot like take this and make a discovered attack. So I just have to do something else. So knight to g3, trying now to pile up on this weak pawn. Queen to f6, still protecting the pawn. Knight to h5. Now this is a little bit weird move, but I thought that I'm controlling some important squares here. Queen to f7, rook to e5. Okay, now I want to double the rooks. I'm also threatening this. I mean, this is defended at the moment, but for example, if he would go to attack, I was expecting that he would play something like, even consider something like bishop to g7, then I can take the bishop, and then the next move I can take the pawn. So this was the idea of my pawn sacrifice, to activate my pieces, so to bring my rooks forward, my knight forward. Okay, it is on the edge of the board, but it's on his half of the board, controlling important squares. So to put my pieces forward and to try to get some activity, which I didn't quite succeed. He played bishop to d6, and I have to admit I didn't even consider this move. I was thinking when I played rook to e5 that only real threat he has is real attempt to kick away my rook was bishop to g7, but I didn't see bishop to d6. So I think at this moment the game lasted for more than an hour. I spent a lot of time thinking about the previous move, so I guess I was a little bit tired already, so I started to miss things like bishop d6. Okay, so I went back with my rook. I went on e4 on the light square. And this was a mistake because obviously this is a weakness. So it will be better to bring it to e2, than also covering this weakness, and I can double up later. So I played rook to e4, and he immediately played rook h to f8, so now he's targeting my weakness. So this is why this was a mistake, and I also didn't see this. So now I have to think about this. I played rook f1, so I gave up my idea of doubling rooks. I played rook a1, and I was hoping maybe to be able to play f4 at some point, since this f4 is covered with the knight, with both rooks, and I can even bring the queen to this square. So I was trying maybe for this kind of activity. So I'm constantly now, I'm a pawn down, I'm looking for some kind of counter play and for some kind of activity. Queen d to e8, so he's now protecting the pawn. And now I realize that this knight doesn't do much here, so I brought the knight back. A knight to g3. Okay, computer thinks maybe queen g2 was better move, but it's okay. Queen to f3. Now he wants to go to the endgame, and this is I didn't predict this move, and this is, I think, a good decision because he has this strong pawn. So the endgame would favor him. Not only does he have a strong pawn, but he also has a pawn majority. So he has the pawn majority on the queen side, and a passed pawn. So this is a lost endgame. All he has to do is to activate his majority and push this pawn. So, but at this moment I didn't have much choice. I practically had to exchange queens to accept the exchange. Queen to f3. Rook takes. Now I'm again trying to make some threats, some counterplay. He decides to take the pawn. I take with the f pawn. Okay, computer thinks I should have taken with the h pawn, but I took with the f pawn because I didn't want to have this weakness. If he comes here, then I have this weakness, and then I have to defend it all the time. So I thought, at least I don't have a weak pawn here. King to d7, now he's bringing up his king, I'm doing the same. King to d3, okay, sorry, rook to d3, so active rook. And I'm now playing rook 1 to e2, so the threat here is to give check and then pick up the pawn. And this second rank is a constant weakness in my position, so I wanted to have the rook here, so to prevent him from checking me, or even to force the exchange. So if he checks, I would have to block, and then he would be able to exchange, and he has this pawn. So I prevented all this. King d6, and you can notice at this moment he's very low on time. So he has 1 minute. So he's basically playing on increment. Increment is 45 seconds. So he's basically playing on increment, and I'm playing. I have plenty of time. The computer evaluation of this position is -7. So he's completely winning. So according to the engine, I have absolutely no chance. So -7. Why is that? Because he has this passed pawn and he has pawn majority. So all he has to do is activate his pawn majority and push his pawn. He has everything. His king is close enough. He can bring his rook behind the passed pawn. He has active rook here. So I don't have any chance. So the only chance I have is that he's low on time and he might make a mistake, or maybe he's not skillful enough to exploit his advantage. So I was I was a bit frustrated here, but I thought to myself at this moment that this will be a good exercise for me. So to be able to hold the unattainable position as long as I can. So this is every time, especially when you are playing online, when you get in these kind of positions. So try to think about this as a learning experience. So this is a very tough position to hold. You have to make very precise moves just in order to hold the position, and this is a good exercise. Even if you lose, it's still a good exercise. So again, at the same moment, so you need to hold the position, but at the same moment you are looking to exploit every opportunity to make some counterplay. So I played h4. Maybe it's not the most precise move, but the idea is to make a counterplay. So I will not just sit and wait for him to promote his pawn or to checkmate me, but I also want to do to create some counterplay, some activity. So I played h4 here, and I think this is the good mentality, this kind of positions. So try to make threats, even though if you are completely in completely defensive position. Okay, he played e5 here. Now he's okay. He's trying to advance his pawn. He's also boxing my rook. You can see that my rook doesn't have much space, so I think this is a good move. Rook to f2. Now I'm trying to, again, I'm playing for activity, for counterplay, so I'm threatening check and to pick up this pawn. He's playing king to e6. Now he's starting to make mistakes. You can see 46 seconds. So that means that he was only 1 second in the moment he played the game, and then he got 45 seconds. So he now starts making mistakes due to the lack of time. Rook to f8. Now I'm playing for activity, although I'm still lost. It's minus 4.6. So although he did some mistakes, he's still winning. The threat is to take this pawn and then to win this rook. So it's a very serious threat. he has to do something about it. He played king to d7, and now at this moment engine evaluates this position as equal, so he made several mistakes, and now it's equal, but yeah, it's equal if white plays perfectly, so it's not so easy to find the correct moves. So for example, the next best move was to take this and just win the pawn, but then he will for example, okay, this, but now he will be in the one with control of the open file, or he could even go check, I don't know, pick up the pawn. So this requires this is theoretically draw, but this requires very precise play. So I think white is still black is still much better here. Again, I wanted to avoid this check, and I noticed my weakness of the second rank, so I played rook to e2, just blocking these threats here. And now again, according to the engine, he is winning minus 4.4, but it really doesn't matter what does the engine says. He has 51 seconds, and the position is very complex, and it requires very precise play. And or on our level, I think neither of us is capable of playing these precise engine moves. So the engine evaluation actually doesn't matter here anymore. Rook to e3, now he wants to exchange rooks. He thinks that he has some kind of advantage, and I think this is clearly a mistake, because now I'm winning a pawn, and now the material will be equal. So I took the rook, he took, and the king f3, now this pawn cannot be defended anymore. King to e6, I take the pawn. Okay, rook to d8, he wants to penetrate. Now he has the penetration square d1, and maybe then he can make some threats from here. I decided to cash in on the pawn now. H takes g5, h takes g5, rook takes g5. Now I am a pawn up, but I have this doubled pawns. He has this strong isolated pawn, so it's very unclear. It's drawish. Rook to d4, okay, very good move. So you can notice I cannot go to e4 anyway, because he'll kick me away. Rook to d4, now his rook is very strong, it's in the middle of the board, very active, threatening everything. So I had to play b3 to protect this c4 pawn, b6, and now I'm trying to do something. Rook g8, threatening well, just the advancement of the pawn, or checking, or attacking this guy, or I don't know. So several possibilities are here. Maybe to push the pawn, maybe to put the rook on f8, and so on. King to f7, okay. Rook to a8. Now I'm giving this pawn for this pawn, and I think this is a good trade, because this pawn is more important. This is a double pawn, so this is I'm getting rid of my weakness. So he takes g4, I take an a7 with check. King to e6. Now this okay, check, yeah. Now this guy is hanging, so I have to defend this, and he goes back with rook d4. And now I have several possibilities. One possibility is to play rook to a6 immediately, pinning this pawn, trying to win this pawn. He could respond by putting the rook here. No, I was afraid, yeah, and then I have this. But I was afraid of this check, so king d3 check. So if I play here, he can check me. I have to move away on some passive square, and then he can take the pawn. And also in this position, since he was low on time, and I think I had a psychological advantage, because I think he was aware that he was winning at some point, and now he's practically defending. So I wanted to play for a win. So I wasn't satisfied at this moment. I wasn't satisfied with the draw, because first of all, he's low on time. Second of all, I think I have this psychological advantage, because I was the one who was losing, and now I mean, now it's equal, but I'm maybe a little bit more active, so I wanted to play for a win here. So I didn't want to just hold the position, and I played a little bit risky and dubious move, g4. So now I'm threatening just to promote. He played rook d3 check. Now he did this threat he wanted to do, but now I played king to e4. He took the pawn, and I played rook to a6. Now I'm pinning this pawn, and if he moves this rook, I will take this with check. And also my plan is to maybe to push the a pawn and then attack this pinned pawn. He played rook to b1. Okay. I played a4. Now continuing with my plan. Rook e1 check. Now he wants to push his pawn, and this is a good plan. Rook to d3, and now he can push with the check, e4. And I played rook to d2. And now this position is equal, but it still requires a precise play. It's I mean, it's equal, but it's not drawish, like they say. So it is by the computer evaluation and by table basis, it's a draw, but still it's not a trivial thing to get it to the end. But at this moment, due to the time pressure, and it was 2 hours and 35 minutes long game, and like I said, in this time of in this kind of time control, people usually don't have time to take a break, like in the real tournament when you can go out 5 minutes, take a walk, and refresh yourself. So people get to be real tired and exhausting in this moment. So after 2 hours and 35 minutes, and he played last half hour or more, maybe on increment. So it's very, very exhausting to play like 40 minutes just on increment. So giving all these facts, and also the psychological burden, since now obviously I'm the one attacking and he's one who is defending after having a better position, I think all this contributed for him to make a blunder, and he played rook e5, completely forgetting that I'm attacking his rook. So I took the rook, and he resigned the game. Okay, so this is the game. I hope you find it interesting. I do. I have learned some stuff. For example, not to take on e5 with the pawn. It's better to take with the knight in the French, if you remember from the opening. And well, also to calculate more, to try to. I have missed some stuff. I have miscalculated some stuff. I mean, this is a normal thing to do. And also, when you are in the losing position, don't give up. Try to think about it as a good exercise in holding the lost position as long as you can, and also at the same time to find chances for counterplay, like I did with this h4 and later with g5. So you should consider this as an exercise and not be too frustrated. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I will soon post, I guess I will post another game very soon, because today I'm playing a Lone Wolf, so I'm now simultaneously playing a Lone Wolf and Lichess4545 team league. I hope I will manage to find time for this. This is very challenging for me. I usually used to play 1 long game per week. Now I'm trying to play 2 long games per week, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel if you didn't, leave the comment below, share the video with your friends, and see you very soon with more chess. Cheers.